How U.S. 5.0-liter V8s became the 1980s decade V8 standard. Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a key chapter in American automotive history, the rise of the 5.0-liter V8 engine in the 1980s. Known for its roar in the muscle cars of the 60s and 70s, the V8 had to evolve when stricter fuel economy rules and smaller cars took center stage. Enter the 5.0-liter V8, less powerful but a true engineering icon of its time. In this video, we'll uncover how the 5.0 became the standard for American cars, why it was so significant in the 80s, and its lasting impact on car culture. From Cadillac's massive 8.2-liter V8s to a new era of efficiency, this engine's story is one of resilience and innovation. Join us as we explore this legendary engine's legacy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more automotive history. The context and rise of the V8 engine. The 1970s were a golden era for the American auto industry, with V8 engines reaching their peak in size and power. During this time, manufacturers competed fiercely to create the largest and most powerful engines, symbolizing innovation and strength. Cadillac led the way with its massive 8.2-liter 500 cubic inch V8, a groundbreaking achievement that defined American engineering and cemented the country's dominance in the global automotive market. V8 engines of the era ranged from 7.2 to 7.5 liters, but Cadillac's 8.2-liter stood out as a symbol of luxury, power, and performance. These engines represented not just machines, but icons of American ambition, offering comfort and freedom on expansive highways during an economic boom. However, by the late 1970s, rising fuel costs, environmental regulations, and energy crises forced automakers to adapt, marking the end of this high-powered era. The shock of CAFE standards and the decline of V8 engine displacement. By the late 1970s, the U.S. automotive industry faced immense pressure from the rising corporate average fuel economy, CAFE standards, a government-mandated initiative aimed at reducing fuel consumption and promoting environmental sustainability. This was compounded by the growing energy crisis, which forced manufacturers to rethink their approach to engine design. As the 1980s progressed, the pressure to meet the ever-increasing CAFE standards led American automakers to further reduce engine displacement. By 1983, the new standard for most V8-powered, rear-wheel drive American passenger cars became 5.0 liters, marking a shift away from the larger V8 engines of the past. From the early 1970s, V8 engines ranged from 7.2 to 7.5 liters. But by the end of the decade and into the 1980s, these engines had shrunk to 5.7 to 6.0 liters, with horsepower ranging from 120 to 180 horsepower. This was part of a broader trend toward smaller, more fuel-efficient engines. During the 1980s, Oldsmobile offered a 5.0-liter, 307 cubic inch V8 engine that was featured in a variety of its models. This engine was available in two versions, a standard variant producing 140 horsepower and a high-output HO variant with a higher rating of up to 180 horsepower. The engine wasn't exclusive to Oldsmobile. It was also used across several other GM brands, including Buick, Cadillac, Chevrolet, and Pontiac, primarily in their rear-wheel drive vehicles. Additionally, it found its place in front-wheel drive models, such as the 1980 to 1985 Oldsmobile Toronado and the 1980 to 1985 Buick Riviera, both of which were based on GM's E-platform. By 1980, V8 engines with displacements from 4.2 to 4.4 liters offered about 120 horsepower, further signaling the shift from larger, more powerful engines to those focused on fuel efficiency. In the same decade, manufacturers began introducing more fuel-efficient technologies, such as computer-controlled carburetors and advanced fuel injection systems, helping them meet CAFE standards without sacrificing too much performance. The automobile manufacturers, who had once dominated with large, powerful V8 engines, were now forced to rethink their approach to engine design. The need to meet stricter fuel economy regulations pushed automakers to reduce engine sizes, and the golden era of large displacement V8 engines came to an abrupt end. V8 engines began disappearing from many vehicles, especially in full-size models, replaced by smaller 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder engines. For example, Buick's 3.8-liter V6 engine, used extensively in the 1980 model year, powered models like the Buick Regal and Century, along with certain Oldsmobile Cutlass and Pontiac Grand Prix variants. Its even-fire design improved smoothness and reliability, making it a key part of GM's strategy to meet fuel economy standards while delivering solid performance. The less common 4.1-liter V6 variant found applications in larger GM cars like the Buick Electra. The year 1980 marked a major shift for V8 engines, with displacements hitting new lows between 4.2 and 4.4 liters. Chevrolet, Ford, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac introduced V8s with 4.3 liters at the lower end. Ford led with the smallest 4.2-liter with 255 cubic inches of V8. Automakers aimed to meet stricter CAFE fuel economy standards while satisfying buyers' love for smooth, torquey V8s. This plan did work, and it seemed to keep customers happy, however it came at a cost. These smaller engines, such as V8s of the 1980 model year, offered smooth operation and reliability. Their output was often limited to around 120 horsepower. This decade marked a shift toward fuel efficiency over raw engine size, transforming the American car market and redefining the balance between power and economy in a new era of automotive priorities. The Adjustment and Standardization of the 5.0-liter V8, 1983 to 1989. By the early 1980s, the 5.0-liter V8 became the defining engine for American passenger cars, symbolizing the shift from the massive, fuel-hungry V8s of the 1970s to engines that balanced performance and efficiency. As fuel economy regulations tightened and consumer expectations evolved, automakers streamlined their offerings, settling on the 5.0-liter displacement as a practical standard for rear-wheel drive V8-powered sedans and muscle cars. This trend marked a new era, where manufacturers had to innovate to extract respectable performance while improving fuel efficiency. The shift was particularly evident in 1983, when most American cars featured 5.0-liter V8s, though the engine's power outputs varied significantly across brands and applications. Chevrolet's 5.0-liter with 305 cubic inch V8, introduced in 1976, proved to be a more versatile performer. By 1983, Chevrolet's 5.0 HOV8 delivered 190 horsepower in the Camaro Z28 and Pontiac Trans Am, providing a blend of spirited performance and compliance with emerging efficiency standards. Similarly, Oldsmobile's 5.0-liter with 307 cubic inch V8 ranged from 140 horsepower in its standard form to 180 horsepower in the high-output variant. Both the Oldsmobile and Chevrolet 5.0-liter V8s were used extensively in Buick, Cadillac, Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac's rear-wheel drive cars throughout the 1980s decade. Both the Oldsmobile and Chevrolet 5.0-liter V8 engines were widely utilized across General Motors' lineup of rear-wheel drive vehicles during the 1980s, including models from Buick, Cadillac, Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac. Notably, Oldsmobile's 5.0-liter V8 also found its way into front-wheel drive platforms, powering the 1980 to 1985 Oldsmobile Toronado and the 1980 to 1985 Buick Riviera. These two vehicles, built on GM's E-platform, showcase the engine's versatility beyond traditional rear-wheel drive applications. Ford's 5.0-liter with 3.2 cubic inch V8 in production since 1968 was a prime example. In 1983, its throttle-body fuel-injected version delivered a modest 130 horsepower in models like the Ford LTD Crown Victoria. However, Ford would later enhance this engine, with the high-output HO version reaching 225 horsepower by 1989 in vehicles like the Ford Mustang GT, reviving the performance spirit. During the 1980s, the Chevrolet Corvette stood out as an exception to the 5.0-liter V8 standard, as it consistently featured a 5.7-liter V8 throughout the decade. However, a notable exception occurred in the 1980 California market, where the Corvette was mandated to use a 5.0-liter V8 to comply with California Air Resource Board CARB emissions regulations. From the 1987 model year onward, high-performance versions of the Chevrolet Camaro, Pontiac Firebird, and Trans Am offered an optional 5.7-liter V8. Additionally, Oldsmobile's 5.7-liter diesel V8 appeared in GM's rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive cars between the 1980 and 1985 model years. Other exceptions included full-size police cars from Chevrolet and Ford. Chevrolet equipped its models with a 5.7-liter V8, while Ford's police vehicles featured a 5.8-liter V8. Furthermore, in 1980 and 1981, a few other U.S. vehicles were still available with V8 engines exceeding the 5.0-liter norm. Another 1980s decade exception, while the 5.0-liter V8 dominated the 1980s, certain manufacturers deviated from this standard, showcasing unique engine designs. Cadillac introduced its small aluminum 4.1-liter pushrod V8 in 1982, initially powering rear-wheel drive models through 1985 before transitioning to front-wheel drive cars until 1988. Meanwhile, Chrysler Corporation relied exclusively on its 5.2-liter V8 throughout the decade, equipping Chrysler, Dodge, and Plymouth rear-wheel drive models. Pontiac, on the other hand, offered its 4.9-liter with 301 cubic inch V8 during the 1980 and 1981 model years, installed across various Buick, Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac rear-wheel drive cars. Notably, Pontiac developed a turbocharged version of this engine for its Trans Am and Firebird Formula models, producing 210 horsepower in 1980 and 200 horsepower in 1981. These exceptions reflected the evolving strategies automakers adopted to balance performance and fuel efficiency amidst increasing regulations. By the late 1980s, the 5.0-liter V8 became the industry standard. But these innovations highlighted a dynamic period in American automotive history. Why was the 5.0-liter V8 the standard V8 engine in the United States during the 1980s? During the 1980s, the 5.0-liter V8 engine became a cornerstone of American automotive design, balancing performance with increasing fuel economy demands. The introduction of stricter CAFE standards pushed automakers to innovate, requiring a fleet average of 27.5 miles per gallon by 1985. Larger, gas-guzzling V8s were no longer sustainable, but the 5.0-liter V8 emerged as a practical solution. Technological advancements, such as computer-controlled carburetors and fuel injection systems, allowed these engines to deliver respectable fuel efficiency without sacrificing performance. Simultaneously, vehicles powered by these engines were reimagined, They became lighter, smaller, and more aerodynamic compared to their 1970s predecessors, which helped to improve fuel economy. The adoption of 4-speed automatic transmissions with overdrive gears further enhanced fuel economy. By the decade's end, the 5.0-liter V8 not only met regulatory standards, but maintained the essence of American muscle, producing impressive horsepower and torque. This engine symbolized innovation, bridging the gap between tradition and modern demands in an evolving automotive landscape. The 1984 Hurst Olds exemplifies 1980s performance engineering with its 5.0-liter HOV8 engine producing 180 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque at 1,600 RPM. With a lightweight curb weight of 3,520 pounds, paired to a THM 204R automatic transmission and 2.56-to-1 axle ratio, the car achieved an impressive quarter-mile time of 15.84 seconds at 90.71 miles per hour, remarkable for its time. The Rochester Quadrajet carburetor ensured efficient fuel delivery, contributing to a respectable 24 miles per gallon on the highway, a testament to the balance of power and economy. Suspension advancements, including a 4-link rear setup and Delco air-adjustable shocks, paired with Goodyear Eagle GT tires, delivered a confident ride. Combining performance and comfort, the Hurst Olds offered drivers a thrilling yet refined driving experience, showcasing significant improvements in fuel efficiency. The 1980s marked a transformative decade for the 5.0-liter V8, solidifying its role as the cornerstone of American performance engines while balancing evolving fuel economy standards. The 5.0-liter V8 emerged as the ideal solution, bridging the gap between powerful muscle car traditions and the demand for practicality. Early in the decade, engines like the Chevrolet Corvette's LG4 delivered 180 horsepower, while by 1989, Ford's 5.0 HOV8 in the Mustang GT and Lincoln Mark VII pushed output to 225 horsepower. These engines also produced an impressive 230 to 300 pound-feet of torque, a range that holds up remarkably well today. Technological advancements, including computer-controlled carburetors and fuel injection systems, enhanced efficiency and power delivery, while design changes such as lighter, more aerodynamic vehicles further supported these goals. Despite the era's regulatory challenges, the 5.0-liter V8 retained its iconic status, embodying the spirit of American performance. Its durability, simplicity, and adaptability allowed it to remain relevant, both then and now. Today, enthusiasts can unlock its hidden potential with affordable aftermarket parts easily, as a from 140 horsepower Oldsmobile 5.0-liter V8 to 300 horsepower without resorting to forced induction, making the 5.0-liter V8 a timeless symbol of innovation and muscle car heritage. The special place of the 5.0-liter V8 in the 1980s. The 1980s marked a pivotal era for American V8 engines, with the 5.0-liter V8 emerging as the centerpiece of U.S. automakers' offerings. While modern engines, like turbocharged 2.0-liter 4-cylinders, easily surpass the performance of these V8s, the significance of the 5.0-liter during the 1980s cannot be understated. At a time when fuel economy regulations, such as CAFE standards, pushed automakers to balance efficiency with performance, the 5.0-liter V8 became the ideal solution. Its pushrod design, featuring 2 valves per cylinder, provided reliable power while meeting stringent economy requirements. Technological advancements, including computer-controlled carburetors, fuel injection, and overdrive transmissions, helped ensure that V8-equipped cars could deliver respectable efficiency without losing their American muscle spirit. By the mid-1980s, V8 powered vehicles had evolved to be smaller, lighter, and more aerodynamic, enhancing both performance and economy. Although the horsepower figures of the 5.0-liter engines, like the 225-horsepower Ford HOV8 in the late 80s, may seem modest today, they stood out in an era dominated by sluggish 4- and 6-cylinder engines. Whether in a basic sedan or a sporty Mustang, the 5.0-liter V8 made a statement. It symbolized both the endurance of American performance and the transition toward a more efficient, innovative automotive future, solidifying its place as a cultural and historical icon. As we look back on the 1980s, it's clear that the standard 5.0-liter V8s became the decade's defining engine standard for American automakers. The transition from massive gas-guzzling V8s to more fuel-efficient engines was a direct response to rising government regulations and the need for a balance between power and economy. Despite the downsizing, these 5.0-liter V8s, which had roots dating back to the late 60s and early 70s, still managed to offer solid performance and smooth power delivery that made them a favorite in many American cars. By the end of the decade, the 5.0-liter V8 engines had been refined and developed, offering impressive horsepower numbers for the time, and setting the stage for the performance cars of the 1990s. While today's cars may easily surpass these engines in terms of power, the 1980s 5.0-liter V8s hold a special place in automotive history for their role in adapting to a changing world while still retaining that signature V8 charm. They were more than just engines. They were a symbol of a time when American car manufacturers found a way to keep the spirit of muscle cars alive, even amidst challenges. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating insights into automotive legends. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories like these.